What was that? Yeah, I'll be getting him on the line.
Anthony Davis, who had 30 points and 12 rebounds. LeBron James chipped in with 21 points, 8 boards, and 9 assists. Phoenix's Kevin Durant, 39 points in the loss.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I'm just wondering if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And that, I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you were playing fullback up there. And I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. If you were strong enough to pick up the whole weight room. I wanted to pitch it, and our running back coach didn't take the pass. biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. I am Xavier. Martin is out again this morning. It is Friday as we get ready to wrap up Bama's off week. It's a free for all Friday. We've talked a lot about things that we want to see from Alabama moving forward. Yesterday with Kennington Smith the third, talked about some of the things that we want to see offensively, defensively from players, from coaches, and just, of course, the recap of the Tennessee game. So remember, you can call in and talk about whatever you want today, and we'll have that conversation. But I am going to be joined by DC of DC Capstone Report. Again, thank him. Want to go ahead and thank him for sitting in. But as we get ready to kick off this edition of the Martin Houston Show, remember this is the day that the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time to serve someone, love someone, notice someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. DC, how you doing this morning?
Oh, good morning, X. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, thank you. So yesterday with Kennington, we covered a little bit of the Bama grades and things that we want to see moving forward. So I want to touch a little bit on that with you, as well as a jaunt around the SEC, look at some of the games this week, couple big ones that could shape things moving forward. Big game down in Jacksonville, Florida, as Georgia and Florida play each other. But before we get into that, want to talk about the grades a little bit. When you look at this Alabama team, what are some things that you want to see moving forward from the offensive side of the ball?
Well, I think there's a lot of improvement that can be made on the offensive side of the ball, and I think it starts with the coaches. I would like to see a more consistent play calling from the coaches, offensive coaching staff, and I'd like to see them look to put our players in the best possible positions for them to do well. And I don't think they've done that for Jalen Milroe during the year. I don't think they've done it for our running backs because they haven't been committed to the running game. So I think this is a great time in the off season to look at ourselves, be introspective, take a day or two to look at the analytics of, what are our tendencies and what am I calling, and I think try to avoid some of that. So I think going down the road, there's a lot of players a lot of teams who can watch film in Alabama and really get a read on what they're trying to do. And I think if we call a more variety of plays, commit more to the run, to call a variety of run plays, and get Jalen Milroe into the running game a little bit, it will definitely open up that play action passing game that we see him play so well in. Does a great job downfield. So I think if we did that, we'd increase our passing game exponentially. And I think that's one thing we got to do. The second thing we got to do on offense is we got to get some help on that outside left side of the line. Well, that means chipping the block, moving a tight end out there, rolling to the right, which I think we did a little bit in that Tennessee game. Anything you can do to help that outside tackle. And I guess maybe get him to concentrate that if he's got inside help, he should never be beat to the outside. If we can get him thinking along those lines, that's a needed key improvement there that we have to do on offense. I think if we do those two things and limit our mistakes going forward, then I think we can really make some really improvements here during this off week as we go into the LSU game.
Go ahead, talking about the LSU game a little bit. Still on the offensive side of the ball, what do you want to see in that game specifically?
Well, in the offensive side of the ball, as far as when we go in the LSU game, I would like to see us commit to running the ball in a variety of ways, call different run plays, and use that jet sweep more to get to the outside. And I believe that if we do that, that's going to open up our downfield passing. And I really believe that LSU is susceptible to the downfield passing. I don't think they're as good in the defensive backfield as they have been in years past. And I think if we can exploit that. So I think if we can get Jalen Milroe involved in the running game a little bit, get the LSU team play in the run. If we're successful early in the run, we're going to be really successful in the game in the pass. So I'd like to see them run the ball to set the play action passing in that LSU game. If we can do that and we can protect the quarterback, then I think we got a good chance to win that game against LSU, pretty handily.
I definitely agree with that. And when you look at the defensive side of the ball, what do you want to see moving forward for the rest of the season?
Well, on the defensive side of the ball, I give the defense a really good grade overall. I think Kevin Steele has done an excellent job in getting this Bama team back to playing Bama standard of defense. And we've seen more sacks, we've seen more turnovers, we've seen more scoop and scores, interceptions, and I think that they play aggressive. I think that is all a byproduct of aggressive play. And I really like to see them continue that on toward the end of the season. If anything, I believe that we could, in our press coverage on pass coverage, sometimes we seem to be lax on that and let some of the players get by. And then it seems like sometimes we take a series off or something. So I'm not sure where that comes from. Maybe if they're tired, the offense is leaving on the field too long, or if concentration. And it could be because we're a young team, and there's a little bit of a lack of concentration on what they're doing. But I really believe those are the areas that we could improve in. But just going forward, keep doing what we're doing. Keep being aggressive. Keep sacking the quarterback, putting pressure on the quarterback. And the only thing I think that could improve a little bit, especially going in this LSU game, is we're going to have to keep that quarterback in the pocket and don't let the quarterback extend plays on third down. We got to get off the field on third down. There were a couple of times in that Tennessee game that we didn't get off the field on those drives, and we had opportunities on third down to get off the field. So we need to improve in that area, I believe.
Yeah, and speaking of some things that you see, Bama. Well, we've talked kind of really about what the offensive coordinator needs to do, what the defensive coordinator needs to do moving forward. When you're looking at Jalen Milroe's game, what is it that he really does well that has helped this team? Because there's the notion that this is a quote unquote down year for Bama and things of that nature. But what have you seen from Milroe that has really impressed you throughout the course of the season?
Well, the number one thing is, I think, growth. From the very beginning, first game he's played, all the way through, he's gotten better with experience. And I said early on that if we give him a chance, he only played a couple of games, give him a chance to get some experience under his belt, and he'd be much better. So I think the number one thing that's impressed me is his ability to grow and his ability to rebound after a mistake. I think in years past, we've had quarterbacks that would have a mistake and hadn't learned to rebound, especially a young player who has only had a couple of games under his belt. I think he has a really good setup in his mindset to overcome those mistakes. I think that's been good. But I think his number one game that he does so well is that deep ball pass. It's very accurate. It's on the money. He's able to hit the receivers, and I think that's why I think he's allowed us to make explosive plays this year. I don't think we had as many explosive plays last year, and I think early on it was lacking. But as the time has gone on, he's really been able to hit those downfield plays. I think that really helps the team out when you can get an explosive play like that. It builds momentum, and of course it takes up a lot of field position and can switch the field a lot. So I think those downfield play action passes are the best thing that he does. The second best thing has to be move with his feet. He's been able to turn some bad plays into good plays. I just think he needs to play more consistent. We have a tendency to be bad play, good play, bad play, good play. And the whole team, I think, needs to play more consistent. And I think he's grown into that as we've seen the year go on.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We're going to go ahead and get to break, and then we come back on the other side. We'll continue to talk about a few things as far as what we want to see from other guys on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, as well as we'll get into a little bit of basketball and around the SEC as a whole. Remember, you can join in on the conversation on the Alabama One hotline at 205-342-9904.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
A major wreck on Alabama 5 has closed the roadway north of Marion. Use an alternate route. And we got a medical emergency on 2059 westbound before exit 79. That's University Boulevard with delays. Grab some end-of-the-month savings now at Townsend Nissan. They're your hometown dealer, and I'm Captain Ray.
Tide 100.9 and Local Bank are proud to present Hometown Heroes. Each month, we'll take nominations for local heroes from law enforcement, firefighters, educators, and medical professionals. Our Hometown Heroes will be featured on the Tide 100.9 website. Log online to Tide109.com and nominate a Hometown Hero today. Winners will receive lunch at Texas Roadhouse. Local Bank is a proud sponsor of Hometown Heroes. Local Bank puts customers first. Local people, local decisions. Local Bank, 1635 McFarland Boulevard, Tuscaloosa, and online at mylocal.bank.
Tuscaloosa Locksmith does general locksmith work, laser engraving, and makes keys. They sell safes, key remotes, remote fobs, and smart keys. Tuscaloosa Locksmith, just off 15th Street behind the fire station.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Another warm, dry day today. The sky partly to mostly sunny, the high 82. Fair tonight, below 64. And for the weekend, warm and dry. A partly sunny sky tomorrow and Sunday. Highs between 82 and 85. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 59 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
It's time for the Martin Houston Show. With the same hard-hitting, no-nonsense approach in which he played the game, Martin will take you inside the locker room, down on the field, and across the goal line with his in-depth analysis.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. I'm Xavier Houston as Martin is out today, and I am joined with DC of DC Capstone Report, talking a little bit more about grades today and what this Alabama team needs to do better. And as well, we will get to around the SEC as, once again, this is Bama's off week. So it gives us a little opportunity to talk about more than just Bama. But as we continue the conversation, we just finished talking about what the offense needs to do better as a whole. We've hit what Jalen Milroe can do and things of that nature. But DC, one thing is, throughout the course of the season, at the beginning of the year, he would use his legs a lot to get out of certain situations, and that's kind of waned. Do you think that's more of him just trying to be smart, considering the position that we're in at the quarterback position? Is it coaching? What is it that has limited what we all thought was going to be his number one strength coming into the season?
Well, I think it's a combination of things, and I think I'm a firm believer, and I don't think everybody agrees with me on this because I don't think anyone's confirmed it, but I'm a believer that there was a time in practice where he tweaked something in his leg, a hamstring, something, Achilles, something, tweaked it. Didn't hurt it bad, didn't injure it, but it tweaked it. I think that sent a little message to the coaching staff. Hey, we don't have a really great depth at quarterback. We need to manage him well. So I think it started him thinking about it when you start talking to him about being careful. I think it started him thinking about it more. So I think it's a combination of we're not very deep at quarterback. He got a little twinge or something in the leg during practice. I think it's documented that he had to go in, get some treatment, came back out, finished the practice, never missed a game, never missed another practice. But I think that incident caused the coaching staff to be more hesitant and talk to him about staying in the pocket more, not running. And they haven't called as many dedicated run plays. I think as the years gone on, you've seen them call a little more, so maybe they're getting a little more comfortable with that. But I think it's a combination of all that. Once you start talking to a kid about staying in the pocket and not running and not getting injured, then it gets in their mind about doing the same thing. So I think he's been a little hesitant to run as well. So I think it's just a combination of them trying to be safe with him. I think down the stretch, though, if he could ever just turn loose in a game like he did against Arkansas, where he had to come in off the bench, it's been well documented how fast he is and quick that he is. He could really make a difference running the ball. But with running the ball, you do put yourself in positions to be injured, and I think they don't have really good depth or really confidence in the quarterbacks behind him.
Yeah. And one thing me and Kennington talked about yesterday is the aspect of the running back room is what it is. It seems like it's going to be Jace and Roydell the rest of the way, with maybe, depending on how the game goes, you sprinkle in Jam and Jace a little bit. Is that something that has really shocked you throughout the course of the season, and how we don't use either one of those guys?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit, because I thought going in that the running back room is going to be the deepest running back room we've had in a while, and I still think it is. But, sometimes I think, Jam Miller was a little bit dinged up early in the year, and that limited some of his carries in practice. So I think then we got comfortable with Jason and Roydell, and Jason's a great running back. I think we talked on here before that the more we give him the ball, the better he gets. And so I think it's imperative they give him the ball more. But I really believe Justice Haynes is the back that's got the most talent, and Richard Young's got a lot of talent. But Young came in late and didn't get a chance to get many reps. And I believe the only thing holding back Justice Haynes is I think that they had a couple of times when he was in the game where he didn't pick up the blitz and were caused to get sacked. And I think that in themselves kind of limit his carries based on his ability to block. And I think he's improving on that. But he's a young freshman, so I think they've settled in on Jace McClellan and Roydell Williams as the two backs that have the most experience in blocking situations to help protect the quarterback, and both of them run very well as well.
Yeah, definitely. You understand it and it makes sense, but man, sometimes it's like I think the younger three guys have the most talent or the most potential in the room. But Jace and Roydell have done a very good job. They both have 100-yard plus games this year, and both of these guys just get better the more touches they get. So it's interesting seeing what that balance really needs to be with those two. And then, of course, like I said, you still want to see the young guys get some reps, because you don't want to be in a situation going into next year where they don't have a ton of experience. But it's a catch-22 at this point of the season, but still would love to see the young guys a little bit more down the stretch. And the wide receiver room is very interesting to me. When you look, you love what Bond and Burton have been able to do throughout the course of the season. Both are big play guys and come up in clutch moments with big-time catches. But, Ja'Cory Brooks and Malik Benson, we both, I know I did especially, expect to see more out of the two of them. So the two of those guys have been a little bit of a disappointment. But the big question is, who's going to be that number 3 wide receiver down the stretch when you have some of these these games that that are going to be tight, and teams are really going to be trying to take Burton and Bond away?
Well, I think we've seen some flashes from Kobe Prentice, the deep ball, of course, and I think we've seen some flashes from Kendrick Law. So, Jalen Hale, the freshman, had some flashes there earlier. So there's 3 good candidates right there to step up and be your 3rd wide receiver. I've been disappointed, I guess, in Brooks, but it's hard to be disappointed in Brooks because he's played so well on special teams. He's really a team player and done real well, but I don't think he has not blossomed like I thought he would after that breakout game he had with Auburn at Auburn. But I think Malik Benson is a person that I expected more from. So I think it's the biggest disappointment in my opinion. And he came on this last game to make a couple of catches, but the biggest disappointment in the wide receiver room, in my opinion, has been Malik Benson. I think there's a way that we could use his speed better on some of those deep shots. I just don't know that he's been in a position to do that, or we put him in a good position to do that. But you're right, Burton and Bond are the 2 go-to guys, along with Maury Nyblack at tight end. I'd like him to see him use C.J. Dupree a little more. He's thought of sometimes as a blocking tight end, but can catch the ball really well downfield. And I think he gets lost in coverage a lot because of that. So I believe he would be a mismatch for us to take advantage of sometime down the road. But I look for Kobe Prentice or Kendrick Law or Jalen Hill to kind of make a difference in these last few games.
I like that. I like that. Hey, we do have a call from Pat on the Alabama One hotline. Pat, welcome into the Martin Houston Show, Martin and Xavier.
Good morning, guys. Morning, DC.
Morning, Pat.
I wanted to talk a little bit about. I got two questions. My first question is about. I know you guys are not gamblers, and I'm not either. I quit gambling when I was in college, but Florida seems to be the lock of the week.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised about that, but I think that has a lot to do maybe with Brock Bowers not playing, Georgia not hitting on all cylinders, and Florida really finding ways to win some big games this year. I agree. I'm not much of a gambler, but when we got to talk about that game, I was going to go ahead and say that this is a prime time, I think, for Florida to pull the upset in Jacksonville. So I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me if they pull the upset in Jacksonville.
Yeah, well, that line is 14.5. The half part is the one that the hook that gets them. I'll tell you that. I mean, that's a lot of points, and not to take Florida to.
I agree 100%, Pat. Because I've got them possibly winning the game. So I mean, 14.5 is a large, in my opinion, spread. So they're probably the one you want to bet on this week.
Yeah, but if I can get in on the Martin Houston show, they got them playing parlay things. I think Florida's going to be my parlay. I don't know if he's going to do one this week when there's no game, no Bama game, but I guess he will. Anyway, hey, my question is going back to. I'm also hearing that Ty Simpson's out of here. That the Auburn jackasses down there are picking up all of his NIL money plus Jimmy Raines opening up the checkbook.
Well, I hadn't heard that.
Go ahead,
X. I said I have not heard that yet, but go ahead, X.
I saw a report this morning as I was getting ready for the show, but that's the only thing I've seen. Would it surprise me if Ty Simpson transfers out? Absolutely not. Jalen Milroe is a good quarterback that is getting better, but to say that he's going to leave after next year would be kind of hard for me to go with that projection. And then you look at the younger guys, you look at Lonergan, that'll have a couple year gap between him and Milroe, and then of course Eli Holstein and Julian Sand having 2-3 year gaps between them as well. And Milroe, Ty's on his tail. If Milroe ends up being a 3-year starter, which is a possibility, that only gives Ty 1 year to shine. So it definitely wouldn't surprise me if he ends up transferring out. Is Auburn the destination? Don't know. Could be, but it'll be interesting to see what happens as the season ends.
I just hate to see him go there. I mean, I think the kid does have potential, and anyway, it's a shame that this thing's working out like it is. That we don't have at least some sprinkling and some packages for Ty. All right, y'all have a blessed day, and we'll wait to hear Martin on Monday what he thinks. All right, have a good one. Bye bye.
You too, Pat. Thank you for calling in. We appreciate all the callers. Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, that's an interesting lookout for Ty. I think he does transfer, but it'll be interesting to see if Auburn ends up being the destination. The transfer part doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, to be truthful though, X, Auburn is the destination for any quarterback that wants to transfer right now. I mean, let's just be honest. They're going to be in the conversation for any quarterback that wants to transfer, and Alabama's quarterback no different. Ty Simpson could go down there. His dad's a coach at UT Martin. I'm sure in the coaching ranks he's got a relationship with Hugh Freeze, but he's got a relationship with a bunch of other coaches as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if he transfers, but it doesn't surprise me if he stays either. It's just one of those things that you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, he did come in and say I don't mind taking the Mac Jones route, but Mac had a potential for 2 years. Mac wasn't a lock as a one and done, so there's that aspect of it, which will make it interesting, especially with the young guys that you have the younger guys that you have behind them.
Yeah.
But back to the conversation. I know. And I really want to focus on the offense today. That offensive line, man, we thought that was going to be the strong point of the offense, and it's been the biggest disappointment to me. It was the lowest grade that I gave for the offense, actually for the entire team. Is that something that you kind of feel like as well, that the offensive line just hit? You have Latham, who's been good. You have Booker, that's been good. Jaden Roberts has played very well the last couple weeks, but just as a whole, has left you wanting more.
No doubt. I think the offensive line will be my lowest grade on the team, and this biggest disappointment I think is this offensive line. I've had such high hopes for them going in, but Booker and Latham, nothing but good to say about them. I think they've graded out great in almost all the games. Jaden Roberts has been a great addition in my opinion. I think he's come along real well. Very disappointed in Seth McLaughlin's play at center. Never thought we'd have snap issues, and I think that's been a consistent problem that's really hurt our team. And then the left tackle position, realize they've had several 3 transfers out or graduations there at that position that kind of left us thin, but. I guess I've been disappointed with the coaching and not giving him more help early on over there, or either trying somebody else. I mean, maybe he's the best we've got. But overall, I think that it's been a situation where I thought they could have done better, and maybe they haven't been used well. We're built for a power running game, and to be honest, X, can you say that we have had a power running game? I can't say that. I don't think that we've committed to the run to a power running game this year, but I've definitely been disappointed in their pass protection.
Yeah, it definitely hasn't been a power run style offense, and I don't know if the running backs that we use are power running backs. Like I think Jason or whatever have been great off of the tackle on the edge, get them out in space a little bit, let them make and create that way. And then of course the passing game, what is it? It's 6 games in a row of at least 4 sacks. Granted, some of those are on Jalen Milroe and him getting the ball out quick enough or just throwing it away, which he has gotten better the last few weeks. If he's outside the pocket, he'll dump it out of bounds to save a sack. But there's been a lot of free runs at the quarterback, especially on his blind side. And so that's just one of those things that Alabama has to improve the rest of the way. So I definitely agree with that. But we got to go ahead and get to break. And when we come back on the other side, we'll continue the conversation and start to hit around the SEC a little bit as big games come up. And we'll talk a little basketball as well.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
A major wreck on Alabama 5 has closed the roadway north of Marion. Use an alternate route. And we got a medical emergency on 2059 westbound before exit 79. That's University Boulevard with delays. Grab some end-of-the-month savings now at Townsend Nissan. They're your hometown dealer, and I'm Captain Ray.
Tired of that gas-guzzling big SUV? It's like trying to park a school bus. Hi, Barry Buckner here at Tuscaloosa Hyundai, and you wouldn't believe how many Tahoes, Expeditions, Suburbans, even Escalades are trading for a new Hyundai Palisade. They're amazed with Palisade's luxury, technology, and a price tens of thousands less. It's no surprise KBB.com named Palisade one of the best family vehicles 3 years in a row. At Tuscaloosa Hyundai, our best Palisade feature is no added side stickers. Come see what a difference that makes on your new Palisade. Come take a Palisade test drive, and I promise you'll be pleasantly surprised. If you want to pay more, that's your business. If you want to save, that's our business. Tuscaloosa Hyundai, corner of Skyland and Hargrove, TuscaloosaHyundai.com.
The Chase Ink Business Premier Card is made for people who make things happen, like me. I'm Sam, founder and CEO of Manifest, a product design company that makes everyday products designed smarter. I get 2.5% cash back on purchases of $5,000 or more, plus unlimited 2% cash back on all other purchases, which helps us make more smart ideas into a brilliant reality.
The Ink Business Premier Card. Learn more at chase.com/business premier. Chase for business. Make more of what's yours. Real business owner compensated for their participation. Account subject to credit approval. Restrictions and limitations apply. Cards are issued by JP Morgan Chase Bank. Any member FDIC.
The sound of Bama sports. Your show, your team. The Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. This is Xavier Houston sitting in as Martin is out, and I have DC of DC Capstone Report joining us for the second time this week. DC, really appreciate you doing that. So as we continue this conversation, or we move into around the SEC, the rest of the SEC, what is going on there? There's really one major game this week, and that is Florida versus Georgia. And of course, we have MaXSports, who is a regular on the show, leaving his messages on YouTube and talking it up. And he said, if Georgia loses to Florida this week, please pray for him. So even MaXSports seems a little bit nervous. Brock Bowers is out, and we talked to Pat a little bit about that game. What are your thoughts on this game tomorrow? I mean, it's the biggest cocktail party in the world. Go ahead and give your thoughts on what Georgia has to do and what Florida has to do.
Well, I think Georgia Florida game is a big game for both of those schools. It's they meet every year in Jacksonville. There, they really call Jacksonville kind of South Florida because it's so it's kind of a lot of sway toward Georgia fans, a lot of Georgia fans in that area. So it's kind of 50-50 of the game. So it's maybe a neutral site that they love to go. Like I call it the biggest cocktail party in the nation when they get together and have a good time. So, but I think the two teams, Georgia's coming in, and I don't think they've played this year the way that Georgia's played in the past and just dominating in every situation, dominating teams. And they haven't had a really hard schedule up to this point. The hardest part of their schedule is on the back end. They went into Auburn and was actually gave Auburn a chance to beat them there on the Plains, which anything can happen when you play at Auburn. But just showed that they were capable of being beaten. I think they were just a play or two away from getting beaten in the other games. But so I don't think that they're the opponent that they have been in the past where they just go in and dominate. So I think if there's any year that Florida sees any inkling of opportunity to take advantage of, this is the year. They've already lost games. Florida's lost some games that they should have. I think they should have won. Had played better, they would have won. So here they come into this game with an opportunity to play the number one team in the nation. And I think Billy Napier is going to have his team ready. So I give them a shot at winning the game. I think 14.5 points is entirely too much in this game. And I could be way off base, but I really believe that Georgia is going to have to revamp a little bit of its passing offense because you take Brock Bowers out of it, he was a big part of it. And anytime you're going in and making some changes in the offense, it could affect you in other areas in the offense as well. So I think Florida's going to have to stop the run. Stop the run in this game, make Carson Beck beat them with the passing game. And on offense, I think Florida's going to have to establish the run the ball really well like they do in their play-action passing game. Georgia, to win the game, has to come in, limit their mistakes. Don't do turnovers. No pre-snap penalties. Put them behind the chain. Run the ball like they want to run. Establish their run game. and then take advantage of some deep shots when they have opportunity. If Georgia does that, plays mistake-free ball, they can win this game. But I think any Georgia mistake would give Florida an opportunity to win.
Agree with that. And just kind of taking a sneak peek ahead at Georgia's schedule, they've got a pretty tough stretch, here ahead on starting tomorrow with Florida, but then it's Missouri, Ole Miss, and at Tennessee. No Brock Bowers. He's been the catalyst of that offense every game he's played in since he stepped on campus. Do you see them dropping one of these four?
Yeah, I think there's a big shot. I think there's probably a 60 to 7% chance that they don't come through those 4 games without a loss. Simply because without Brock Bowers, you don't know how the offense is going to. That's a large amount of offense in their offense. Take that section of the pie out, and it leaves a gaping hole there. How they feel that. If they step up and fill it well and perform well without him, then I think they have a chance to run the gauntlet there and be undefeated. But I think there's a good chance they lose one of those games. I would be surprised if Tennessee and Ole Miss and Missouri doesn't give them a really good game outside this Florida game.
Agreed with that. And I think Ole Miss is the game. I do believe that they can beat Florida. I think they got Missouri, but I think something about Ole Miss, just the way Lane Kiffin has the ability to call games, Jackson Dart, Quishon Judkins, I think that's the game to look out for. I do think they get the win against Florida tomorrow in a tight game. Like you said, 14.5 is crazy to me. So I'm definitely, but I think they pull that one out. I think it's Ole Miss that ends up getting them. But to continue,
I think Ole Miss could definitely be. I think Ole Miss could definitely be the one. But if I was them, I would be more concerned about going into Neyland Stadium and playing on the road in late in the season when the temperature is really kind of lower in the mountain areas, and you're playing amongst those large amount of Tennessee fans. And Tennessee has an opportunity, I think, to do it this year if they can play a full game, full 4 quarters. So I think Ole Miss and Tennessee are other top chances to get a loss.
Agreed. I can roll with that. I can roll with that. Another big game tomorrow: Tennessee versus Kentucky, both sitting at 5-2. Both have 1 loss in the SEC. This game can determine who ends up being in Atlanta at the end of the year, especially if Tennessee can pull the upset over Georgia. If Georgia's going into that game undefeated, who do you have in this game tomorrow?
Well, I think Tennessee is the better team. I think Tennessee would win. The only drawback I have of being 100% sure of that is the fact that it's oftentimes hard to win after you lose a game like they lost to Alabama. They were ahead, so much in that game, and then came out and did nothing, fell flat on their face in the second half, and lost a big rivalry game to Alabama. Sometimes you got to have the mental capacity to not let that same team beat you a second week. And I think if they go in there with a staggering around, sleepwalking, Kentucky could do some things to beat them. But I think Tennessee should win the game.
This game is at Kentucky. I'm actually going to lean Kentucky in this one. Their run game, kind of saw what Alabama was able to do in the second half last week running the ball. Got to see what Texas A&M was able to do running the ball, even though they won that game as well. And as you said, Bama seems to have an effect on teams to where they don't rebound. We saw that with Texas A&M losing last week. You can't let Bama especially beat you 2 weeks ago. They were off last week, 2 weeks ago against Tennessee. You can't let Bama beat you 2 weeks in a row, but that tends to be something that happens after you play. But I'm going to lean a little bit Kentucky just because of, as you said, the potential hangover as well as it being at Kentucky. So I'm going to give the Wildcats a little bit of a nudge in that one. Texas A&M and South Carolina play tomorrow. Texas A&M 4-3. coming off of 2 straight losses. They did have a bye week, so that gets your mind right a little bit and get you back on track. South Carolina 2-5. Most of the games that they've lost have been close games. They did get blown out by Missouri last week. Is this Texas A&M's rebound game, or can South Carolina win this?
Well, I think it's the desperation game for both coaches. I think the season hasn't gone well like they thought it would for either coach. So I think both of them are really hyping their team up to try to win this game. But it's at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is coming off of a bye week. I believe that they have an opportunity to rebound and play. I think South Carolina, for some reason, has something going on that's just not quite right in the program. Don't know what it is. Can't put my finger on it, but something's just not quite like it was last year. And so I think Texas A&M win this game.
Yeah. And I don't know, as you said, it's something about South Carolina this year that just has them off, where they were winning tight games last year, were able to blow out a couple teams. But I did see something interesting. They showed Jimbo Fisher's record versus Kevin Sumlin's record with the same number of games. And Kevin Sumlin has a better record. So it looks like you've poured $100 million into a guy that is essentially a downgrade. They both beat Alabama once. Everybody thought this was the year, Bama down. You can't beat a quote-unquote not as talented Bama team. I don't know what it is. If South Carolina is able to win this game, drop A&M to 4-4, is this it for Jimbo?
Well, I definitely think he has a large buyout, but I'll say this: there's a lot of money in Texas. I think could buy him out if they wanted to. So this could definitely be the year. But I don't know if South Carolina has the offensive firepower to do it. Maybe the one thing I think they're missing, it could be that something that we haven't really talked about here, but could be Freddie Kitchens. I think Freddie Kitchens made a really difference there at South Carolina last year. And when he moved over to North Carolina, I think they lost a little bit of their offensive edge.
Yeah, that I definitely think he's affected it. Bonscore Sports said if South Carolina loses tomorrow, could that be the end of Beamer ball in Columbia? I don't think so. I think it's been a couple things that just where the ball hasn't bounced their way this year. But Shane Beamer, I think he's has done a great job in South Carolina. I don't think they get rid of him unless the wheels just fall off and they end up 2-10 this year.
No, I don't think they get rid of him even if they do that. I think they get rid of the offensive coordinator, if anything, if anybody goes anywhere there. I think Beamer's safe for another year. I think Jimbo Fisher, though, has something to worry about if he ends up losing all the rest of his games this year. I think he'd definitely be out.
Yeah, that'll definitely be the case if that happens. We've got Auburn at Mississippi State at Auburn. Auburn's offense, man, they've looked bad the last few weeks. When you look at the passing game, did they break 100 yards passing last week against Ole Miss? Even though it ended up only being a one-score game, they did at the end. Peyton Thorne on that last drive got them over 100 yards passing. But, man, this offense looks anemic, especially with what we thought it would be with Hugh Freeze calling plays. Will Rogers is out at Mississippi State. They won that ugly game last week against Arkansas 7-3. Who you got in this one?
Well, this is going to be a game of defense. I think defense is the strongest side of the ball for both Auburn and
Mississippi State. Is that by default?
Yeah, I think defense is the strongest side of the ball for Auburn and defense and Mississippi State. So I expect this low-scoring game, and I would be surprised if they beat the over. I think the over in this is 42, maybe something like that. Or 41. I don't think they will ever get that high in this game, in my opinion. I think it'll be a low-scoring defensive struggle. But you know what? I don't see Mississippi State should probably win the game if you look at everything on paper. But when playing in Jordan-Hare Stadium, I would never bet against Auburn in a game like this, just because this is a game that they could, just snap back and have some great offensive play and win this game. Hugh Freeze needs to win. I think he needs to win more than Mississippi State does. So I think Auburn will come out of this with a victory.
It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But hey, we've got to get to break before we come back and wrap up this edition of the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. I am joined by DC of DC Capstone Report. Remember, you can join in on the Alabama One hotline at 205-342-9904.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks, traffic moving pretty well around the area this morning. Of course, if you do see conditions folks need to hear about, just give me a call, 205-886-8886. Grab some end-of-the-month instant savings now at Townsend Nissan. They're your hometown dealer, and I'm Captain Ray.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Friday morning. A letter written by an anonymous long-serving Tuscaloosa police officer is claiming the department is rife with racism, nepotism, fraternization, and flawed promotion processes. The letter also points to forced overtime and an inadequate retirement system as additional reasons for staffing shortages. The Tuscaloosa County branch of the NAACP is vowing to investigate. TPD in a statement says it does not respond to baseless allegations. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
On the next Inside the Locker Room with Coach Wimp Sanderson and Barry Sanderson.
Tune in Friday. We'll talk with Mike Morgan at 7:30. Talk a little SEC basketball at 8:15. Sonny Smith will join us. We'll also look at Dad's Blue Plate Special and pick the games for the weekend.
Inside the Locker Room, weekdays 7 to 9 a.m. on Tide 100.9 and Tide100.9.com.
They're back. The 2023 Alabama Crimson Tide football season is on Tide 100.9. Saturdays are game day all day, starting with the Tide 100.9 tailgate show, hosted by DC and former Tide star Christian Miller. Listen as they take you to the sideline and the locker room for all the latest game day news and insights that will get every Tide fan ready for kickoff. Don't miss the Tide tailgate show with DC and Christian Miller on Tide 100.9, powered by Pearl River Resort, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you what you're looking for. The needle in the haystack.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free. Just go to this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Interact with the Martin Houston Show by calling us at 205-342-9904 or tuning into the Martin Houston Show on Facebook.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier as we get ready to wrap up this edition of the off week of the Martin Houston Show. I'm joined by DC of DC Capstone Support. DC, real quick, got one more game to cover before we hit a little bit of basketball, and that is Ole Miss versus Vandy. I don't think this game is in any doubt of who's going to win unless Ole Miss just falls apart. I expect them to dominate the Commodores.
I expect the same thing. I think Lane Kiffin's got the Ole Miss team playing better than ever. Only blemish on the record is the loss to Alabama. I think they keep winning. I don't think Vanderbilt gives them much of a competition. I think Ole Miss wins it big.
Yeah. So switching over to basketball as we get ready to wrap things up. Basketball season getting ready to kick off. I don't know if you heard about the scrimmage between Alabama and TCU. In a scrimmage where Aaron Estrada didn't play in it, but got a lot of love and big things happening from One, Sam Walters, one of the 4-star recruits. He dropped 29 points. Guy that we really hadn't talked much about. It's been about the transfers and Right Sale, Estrada, Grant Nelson. But is Sam Walters a freshman that could potentially surprise a lot of people and be an big impact on this team?
No, most definitely. I'm very pleased with this Alabama basketball team, and Sam Walters is one of those freshmen who's going to have a chance to contribute and play. I think he was 7 of 10 from 3-point range in the scrimmage. Did really, really good job of playing defense as well. Had some good blue collar points. But I'm excited about this basketball team for a lot of reasons. But who would have thought you lose 3 assistants, get head coaching jobs at various teams, 2 players to the NBA. How are you going to replace a Brandon Miller and Noah Clowney? And Nate Oates just comes in and he hires 3 assistants that have so much experience with Austin Clounce and Ryan Pannone and Preston Murphy. All of them have come in, and what I've heard, they've plugged in and have been really great additions to the team. And then you go out and get some transfers and some freshmen that have really made a core group here that have a chance to compete, I believe, for another SEC title. But this is the tallest basketball team we've ever put on the floor at Alabama, as far as I can see. And Sam Walters, I think Jaron Stevenson's another freshman that's going to contribute as well. And then you got Aaron Estrada and Mark Sears in the playing the guard position. Grant Nelson coming on and doing well. I don't think Wagoo played in that game. I'm not sure Diabate played in that game. I thought they held their own really well in that scrimmage against a very, very good TCU team that has a lot of good players on the team. So I believe they did a really good job, and I think they're poised to have a really good year.
I agree. And talking about the length on this team, have you heard the rumors about them potentially running out Nelson, Pringle, Stevenson, and then having Ryland Griffin at the 2? You're talking about 4 guys, 6 foot and above out there. And then, of course, you would have either Estrada or Sears. And Estrada's 6'3", so that's a really tall lineup.
Yeah, and then there's another freshman I don't think we're talking about, Chris Parker. I think he's a 6'9" guard, real lanky, long arm guard. So we got some really good. That's a great tall lineup you're talking about there. But I've heard that Grant Nelson can really play 1 through 5. I think he can play anywhere on the court. So I wouldn't be surprised to have him in a lot of mismatches down the way. Because if you guard him with a guard outside, he takes you inside. If you guard him with a big man inside, he can take you outside. So I think he that kind of lineup, I don't think we've had that kind of luxury of that kind of height at different positions. But I think it really would bode well for us down the road, especially when we get to SEC play.
He is a matchup nightmare because of his skill set. You're talking about being able to handle, but having a really good post game. So it's going to be interesting to see with Nelson, his adjustment to the level of play, because the talent's there. It's by far there, and not worried about that at all. But to wrap it up, what are your big things about this season? Like you said, compete for a championship again. They projected 5th. Where do you see this team ending at the end of the day?
I see this team 1 or 2 at the end of the year, maybe winning the SEC and winning the tournament again. I really think that Aaron Estrada at the point, Mark Sears off guard, both of them are going to really play well. You add in Stevenson, Grant Nelson, Nick Pringle, with Ryland Griffin. I think we got and Walters coming on. I think we got the really bones for a really great team this year in the SEC.
Hey, I agree with you.
For all the listeners out there that really love basketball, go out and check out the Alabama production. First two episodes are out of the inside of the basketball. Some great videos, about 10-minute videos, well worth your time to kind of find out the inside look at the Alabama basketball team.
All right, DC, let them know where they can find you, sir.
DC Capstone Report, DC Capstone Report Facebook page. You can follow me at Twitter at DavidCott50. I always thank my sponsors, RollTideBama.com, FreelancePictures.com, and Karen Cottingham, Realtor, right here in Tuscaloosa for all your real estate needs. That's Karen Cottingham of the Williams Group at Keller Williams, 205 887-4008. And thank you for having me on, X. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. It's always a blast to have you on. I appreciate you sitting in. But hey, remember, this is the Martin Houston Show with Martin and Xavier. That was DC of DC Capstone Report. Remember to trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. I'm Xavier Houston. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday with Martin joining us again to talk a little bit of LSU versus Alabama.
Thank you for listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, no active wrecks. Traffic moving pretty well around the area this morning. Of course, if you do see conditions folks need to hear about, just give me a call, 205-886-8886. Grab some end-of-the-month instant savings now at Townsend Nissan. They're your hometown dealer, and I'm Captain Ray.
Hey, if you're thinking about getting the latest iPhone, check this out. With Boost Infinite, you get the latest iPhone every year and unlimited wireless for just $60 a month. Yeah, you get the new iPhone 15 Pro with titanium. Then again, next year you get the latest iPhone. Every year. Boost Infinite. Infinitely better. To learn more, pick up your phone, dial pound 250 and say Boost Infinite. That's pound 250 and say Boost Infinite. Terms apply. After 30 gigabytes, service may be slowed. Receive a comparable iPhone model each year with an acceptable trade-in every year. Requires credit qualification and 36-month phone financing agreement. You'll have the option to receive a one-time auto-dial text message from this station's network.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Another warm, dry day today. The sky partly to mostly fair tonight, below 64. And for the weekend, warm and dry. A partly sunny sky tomorrow and Sunday. Highs between 82 and 85. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 59 degrees in Tuscaloosa.